Hello, it is Josh Bloom, and I am feeling a little left out today because everyone I know is posting remembrances of Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and I don't have anything to say about Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. He passed away yesterday, and I think that is sad and notable, but while I enjoyed the Beach Boys growing up, I can't say that I am a Beach Boys fan or anything, so I am just wishing I was so I could join in with some heartfelt words. Maybe I should just say, hey, what a bummer about Brian. I enjoy the Beach Boys, but it doesn't go much beyond that. I am sad that a person has passed away, and isn't that enough? What do you think? Would that go over well? I think I will not find out. This is episode number 35 of Josh Bloom Isn't a Sufficient Fan of the Beach Boys podcast, also known as the Josh Bloom Podcast. It is the latest edition of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration, days 138 through 144. I am still on deadline to complete a book about an indie rock band whose leader happened to post a picture of himself with Brian Wilson after he texted it to me first, and I encouraged him to do so. So maybe that counts as my contribution? I feel better about it now. I will have news about this book very soon. Please subscribe to my Substack to be notified first. This week on the show, we talk about how if you have a dozen kids that you don't see, then no one should be wondering if you care about anything. Yes, I am referring to the electric car guy. I discuss how instead of trying to change the world, we can change one person's life every day by simply being decent. Give it a try and let me know how it worked out in the comments. Speaking of comments, a commenter commented on that video by telling me about a good deed that was done for her by a coworker, and I compare the satisfaction one gets from doing good deeds with that of buying a Lamborghini. Of course, I had to bring up Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Wooderson from Dazed and Confused. Stick around to find out why. I contemplate if the government will have to send us checks to compensate us for the fraud they are committing with our tax dollars, just like Navin Johnson had to do in The Jerk because of OptiGrab. I remind us all that the leader of the Trump administration received less than 50% of the votes, and we wrap up with a mention of the problematic 1982 film The Toy, starring Richard Pryor. Boy, oh boy, we covered a lot of my fictional and non-fictional heroes this week. As usual, if you want to watch a compilation of all of this week's original TikTok posts, they are compiled in one video on YouTube, and a link is in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and now let's get into 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I will be back afterwards. Day 138 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration. I am not a self-help guru. I do not have a dozen children. I am just trying to help myself. If you do have a dozen children that you do not see, you do not care. Even the casual observer is aware today of the breakup of the leader of the Trump administration and the electric car guy. The aspect of this that I want to remind us of on day 138 of 1,461 Days of Ignoring the Trump Administration is about caring. When this loss of love began, the electric car guy was complaining about deficits. I heard a reporter this morning wondering if the electric car guy really does care about deficits. At least that's what I thought was being said because I tuned out at the word care. I hope you know by now that the electric car guy, the leader of the Trump administration, and really any billionaire narcissist doesn't care about anything other than themselves. The electric car guy has 10, 12, 14 children that he doesn't see, and we're wondering if he cares about something? A normal person with a single child is consumed with making sure everything is okay with that child. That's basic parental care that people who are not mentally ill, demented, or deranged naturally feel. It is a primary concern in your existence. I don't even have children, but I am an uncle, and even I know that in my bones. Then again, I am not a habitual ketamine user. It is a basic human instinct that children need protection, attention, and validation from their parents. So when anyone insinuates that the leader of the Trump administration or the electric car guy cares, remember that this kind of wealth can only be achieved on the broken backs of other people's hard work. People who are not properly compensated, because if they were, they might use that compensation to do something else with their lives. Please don't confuse the oligarchs with hundreds of billions of dollars with someone like Taylor Swift, for example. She's not worth hundreds of billions of dollars. She might be worth $1 billion or $2 billion. And she has accomplished that by entertaining millions of people who desperately need a break from the chaos that the people I previously mentioned have brought into the world. Taylor gave life-changing six-figure bonuses to her truck drivers. The electric car guy, the leader of the Trump administration, they aren't giving six-figure bonuses to anyone. Do not fool yourself into thinking these people care about anything, much less anyone. In this case, I would suggest that you ignore the Trump administration. Day 139 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. My name, Josh Bloom. My game, just trying to help myself. I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good enough. This sentiment reflects how a friend of mine was feeling when he posted today. When I was young, I thought I could change the world, but now that I'm old, I know I never could. When I saw this, it made me very sad, and I commented, "We can change one person's world every day." Isn't that a nice comment, unlike comments left by some of you gross-ass trolls out there? But seriously, I mean that on day 139 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I mean the "we can change one person's world every day" part. We don't have to feel like we need to change the world. We don't have to risk big moves in our lives to make big changes in the lives around us. Every day, I try to interact positively with at least one other person. If it's out in public, on the phone, or even if it's in the comments on this platform or others, I try to make some connection in some way. Even if it's just a thank you, even if it's just a please, even if it's just a reply to someone's hurtful comment in which I avoid acknowledging that they are a person who is trying to hurt me and instead acknowledge that they are a person. Making a connection is a skill that the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration should work on. Currently, this is not a skill that the leader of the Trump administration or the Trump administration has, because this is a skill that requires the practice and maintenance of a lifestyle that involves the will to become a better human being by giving of oneself selflessly. As you are ignoring the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration by taking in less of their bad behavior via the media, use the time that you reclaim for something other than thinking you can make the world a better place by recycling plastic, for example. You cannot see the results of recycling plastic when you walk out of the door. What you can see results from is making eye contact with your neighbor and saying, "Good morning." Try it just once, which is also the name of the 1981 song sung by James Ingram that contains the lyric, "I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good enough." Well, your best can be good enough when you do what I suggest when you walk out that door and ignore the Trump administration. Day 140 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I am just trying to help myself. This comment is related to Lamborghinis. Let me explain. Yesterday, I talked about how we can change one person's world every day, and Daisy left this thoughtful comment. Feel free to pause and read all of it, but basically, Daisy shares a story of a coworker who gifted a bag of groceries at a time in Daisy's life when that gift meant a lot. The fact that Daisy is telling us about this later proves the point that a small gesture can make a big difference. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and through the course of our conversation, I found out that he is into cars and he owns a Lamborghini. Now, I have talked with this gentleman before and have overheard him discussing the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, and that he supports common sense. If I become better friends with this gentleman, I will try to find out what common sense means to him. But regardless, he seems pleasant. He has had a very successful career, and I want to make something clear. You want to buy a Lamborghini? You got the money to buy a Lamborghini? You're into cars? You buy that Lambo. Enjoy yourself, because you've heard a lot of talk in the last 24 to 48 hours about the National Guard. Well, I'm here to talk to you about the local guard, and I'm talking about the micro local guard, and that micro local guard is you. You need to guard your peace, prosperity, and happiness. We are living in a tumultuous time with the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, and frankly, who the hell knows who's coming next? Even if it's Pete Buttigieg, a person I would absolutely vote for who would be completely focused on protecting my rights as a GAYJEW, he is still a person profiting off of me. Politicians are paid big money with our tax dollars through writing books and giving speeches, and there is no way around that. This gentleman made enough money to buy a Lamborghini. Well, that's just the way the system works. If you had the money of a politician, if you had the money of a successful man with a Lamborghini, you could, if you wanted to, buy someone's groceries for them every single day of your life. And I feel that that would bring you more personal pleasure than the Lambo. Again, no judgment. If I got into a conversation with this gentleman about his Lamborghini, I would feel completely comfortable bringing this up. And he might say, oh, in addition to the Lambo, I do buy someone's groceries every single day. And I would slap the table and be, God damn, dude, you're the man. I would say, you're doing it, you're doing it, you're doing it well, just like that 1996 LL Cool J song. Ladies love Cool James, and ladies love to ignore the Trump administration. Day 141 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I am just trying to help myself. Are you familiar with the character named Jeff Spicoli from the film named Fast Times at Ridgemont High, as played by Sean Penn? Are you familiar with the character named Wooderson from the film named Dazed and Confused, as played by Matthew McConaughey? Both of these characters lived their lives as if every minute was their last. They were chill as fuck, for lack of a better phrase. As Wooderson famously says in the film, you just gotta keep living, man. Livin. And that is what we should all be doing on day 141 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. To also quote Jeff Spicoli, when asked by his teacher, Mr. Hand, why he was late to class, Jeff answered, just couldn't make it on time. And with that, not only was Jeff being completely honest, but he was also, just like Wooderson a decade later, Jeff was just Livin. He was proud of that fact, and we should be too. Even if you are ignoring the Trump administration, which I am very proud of you for doing, the news has likely leaked in of what is going on in Los Angeles, or more accurately, what the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration would like us to believe is going on in Los Angeles, that would require them to bring the National Guard there and to mobilize the military. If that news has leaked through, then it is news that is probably worth leaking through, because it is an escalation of the temperature of the nation. And once you absorb that information, I would suggest you go back to ignoring the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, because that is what Jeff Spicoli and Wooderson would want us to be doing if they were not fictional characters. They would want us to continue LIVIN and accept that we are not going to be able to make it on time all of the time, because that is what nonfiction life is about. Real life is impermanent. Real life is finite. We got to live today. We got to live tonight. We got to ignore the Trump administration. All right, all right, all right. Day 142 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. All I need is this paddleball game. I'm just trying to help myself. In the movie The Jerk, Steve Martin as Navin Johnson has to write checks in the amount of $1.09 to each and every single person who bought his invention, the OptiGrab. And I am sorry if I am spoiling this movie, but this movie came out almost 50 years ago. Navin Johnson has to write a check to everyone who bought the OptiGrab because it made them cross-eyed and he did not test it beforehand, not even on prisoners. I wonder if one day the U.S. government is going to have to write a check, not the $5,000 Doge refund check that will never materialize because the only reason it was ever mentioned is because the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration likes to keep me hanging on, like that classic Supreme song says. I wonder if a future government is going to have to write checks to all of the American citizens for defrauding us by collecting our tax dollars to persecute, surveil, and undermine the stability of our lives. This is not a future that I want to spend time beyond day 142 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration contemplating. This is a future that may exist or may not exist. The point is, we are in the future right now. And we're in it. Now we're in it again. Now we're in it again. Now we're in it again. You understand what I'm saying? What I am suggesting today is that while you are ignoring the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, you go ahead and put on this film, The Jerk, if you have never seen it, because it'll bring you joy, it'll please you, and most importantly, it'll make you laugh, and laughing is one of the most important things in life. Being able to laugh at yourself and the world around you is a survival skill in times of trouble. Mother Mary, come to me. I'm not even into that particular Beatles song too much. I prefer the Supreme song mentioned previously. Remember to take in less of the information that brings you down. Associate with fewer people who hold you down, and put on that Supreme song and get down while you ignore the Trump administration. Day 143 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. I happen to be Verse, and I am just trying to help myself. Did you know that the leader of the Trump administration didn't even get 50% of the votes? Just another quick reminder here on day 143 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration that I am so sorry, but we are going to have to get to the bottom. You know that Talking Heads cover of the Al Green song, Take Me to the River? Well, in the parlance of that band, the leader of the Trump administration is the psycho killer burning down the house and taking us not to the river, to the bottom. We will not be able to see equity, equality, and prosperity for all Americans until we get to the bottom. You can't go and clean out your kitchen trash can and just clean the sides. You got to take the bag out. You got to use elbow grease and a scouring pad and clean all the way to the bottom. Even if it doesn't look nasty to the naked eye, you know this. To clean all the way to the bottom, you have to expose the bottom, and that is a lot of bottom to expose. What is going on right now is something we have never experienced. Someone so willing to go to the bottom as the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration. And I know it is hard to believe that this is a good thing because it seems as if they are trying to destabilize humanity in such a way that it can't recover, but it will recover. Because it's happened over and over again in history by more formidable people than these. I got news for you. Generations from now, long after we're gone, they're probably going to have to go through this again. But every time we go through it, we progress. Kamala Harris, remember her? She received 75 million votes. In 1964, she wouldn't even have been able to vote for herself. She lost by 1.5 percentage points, and 1.85 percentage points went to third party candidates, which means the leader of the Trump administration didn't even get 50% of the votes. Okay? Our optimism is boundless. So here, on day 143 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration, as we witness them taking us to the bottom, remember, this is the first step towards our rise to the top. When the house gets burned down, we rebuild. Please don't ignore your contractor or the day laborers they pick up at the Home Depot who do such a great job. Yes, they do. I suggest to you to ignore the Trump administration. Memory Manager says, I have listened to about 113 seconds of this administration. There is no need to listen to liars at all, ever. Memory Manager, you have spoken words that we all should live by. I only wish I could go back in time to a moment when I had only heard 113 seconds of this administration. You were absolutely correct that we should not listen to liars ever. Unfortunately for me, I seem to have boxed myself into a corner where I'm going to have to continue to do this for the next, I don't even know what it is anymore, at least another 1,000 days. But I appreciate your words of confidence. Thank you for being there, and continue to ignore the Trump administration. Day 144 of 1,461 days of ignoring the Trump administration. I am not a self-help guru. My name is Josh Bloom, and I'm just trying to help myself. I have told you that so many times. The Toy was a movie starring Richard Pryor that I loved when I was 10 years old in 1982. The leader of the Trump administration was 36 years old in 1982, and by then he was already quite the playboy who considered the world his toy to be played with, just like the rich kid in the movie. Upon reflection, this was an incredibly problematic film, just like the leader of the Trump administration is an incredibly problematic fool. He treats this country like it's some game of Risk or game of Battleship or maybe Candyland. The leader of the Trump administration is turning 79 this weekend, and he should be concerned about the way he treats the country starting to be noticed by people who don't pay attention to what he does. Those people are just living their lives, they're doing their jobs, they've got to take their kids to soccer games or whatever. They're not paying attention to the leader of the Trump administration, and that's what the leader of the Trump administration is counting on. It's not because these people are ignorant. Their time is taken, and they don't have extra time to spare. And that's why when the leader of the Trump administration starts to inconvenience the lives of people who are not paying attention, those people will start paying attention because they will be inconvenienced when they are just trying to do what they already don't have time to do. And that will be very, very annoying. Those people are the people who will not tolerate what is going on when the news breaks through because it starts dominating their existence. No one wants anyone dominating their existence. And those people who don't typically pay attention, who might not even see themselves as left or right, they will be very, very pissed because it is a distraction. When those people in the middle start having to deal with the actions or inactions of the leader of the Trump administration and the Trump administration, their response will be no. No, 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 no. This is not acceptable. This is not about America. It's not about democracy. This is about someone making my life difficult. And the response to that is no. They will say, I was thrilled ignoring the Trump administration until the Trump administration stopped ignoring me. You want a toy with my life? I must say no. You wanted my attention? Well, now you got it. I am no longer ignoring the Trump administration. Hey, it's Josh. I'm back. If you have never heard of the toy or simply want to see it again after all these years, I am sure it is online somewhere. It would never get made today, and that's why you should watch it. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a 5-star rating for the Josh Bloom podcast in your podcast app and leave a comment saying you like the show even if you don't like the show, okay? Don't forget to follow and most importantly, tell a friend. I am beginning to wonder if you are telling a friend or if we have now gotten to a place where you are just being defiant, like, I'm not going to tell a friend just because you're telling me to tell a friend. Well, I just told you to watch a very problematic film, so doesn't that prove that I am not just trying to be righteous? Thank you. Lastly, visit me everywhere for everything by going to superjews.com, that's superjerjews.com, for links to all of my social media, and visit superjews.substack.com to subscribe to my Substack, which contains all of my long-form writing. Subscriptions are free, or for a small monthly donation, you can support my work. It helps a lot. Thanks again for listening. I will see you next week.